We have now live in the studio, we're delighted to welcome Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice. Richard, good morning.
Very good morning to you.
Your main concern today, you're really worried about the production of steel in this country and how we're not going to be doing it for too much longer.
Yes, I've got a Westminster Hall debate at 9:30, and if we're not very careful, and nobody's talking about this, within 6 to 12 months, we will have zero general steel-making capacity in the United Kingdom.
That we should be able to produce our own steel? Why is that?
Because after food and water, steel is the most important component of a modern civilization. It's more important than the internet. Without steel, you've got nothing. You've got no buildings, no homes, no cars, nothing. You're literally back to mud huts. And yet, within a year, we could be making zero steel on our own basis. And that's a disaster. And, many other countries all over the world would be the only G20 nation that has no steel-making capacity. Think about that. And we keep hearing from governments, oh, we're world-leading in this, we're world-leading in that. We are literally world-leading in naive, negligent stupidity if we let this industry go. What the government must do, I'm calling for a five-point plan. The government must take a strategic stake in the Scunthorpe plants of British Steel. We've got to cut all the carbon taxes that exist. We've got to stop Chinese dumping of cheap steel into the UK. Unbelievably, at the moment, we're actually reducing the tariffs. So we've got to do that, and we should buy British. All public sector procurement should buy British. It's a great thing. There's nothing better than British steel.
To be clear, though, the government is not suggesting they are going to end British steel making in this country in any way. Obviously, we've seen Tata Steel stop producing it last month, but they're in this transition phase, and by 2027 they're going to have these electric blast furnaces. Now, I know you're sceptical because of the cost of those, because they have to get up to 1,000 degrees or something, but that's their plan. I mean, they're publishing the details.
It's all very well having a plan, but the truth is, neither Tata nor, I believe, Jingye, who own British Steel in Scunthorpe, I don't think they'll build the electric arc furnaces because they won't be viable. And the National Grid have said they can't get the quantity of power to Scunthorpe for the electric arc furnaces for 6 or 7 years. We've got the most expensive electricity in the developed world, which means these electric arc furnaces won't be viable. And once you've closed a blast furnace, it's finished, it's done.
Is there much to be said for foreign ownership? Are we in part of this trouble because of foreign ownership? Tata, who own hotels, who own airlines, who dabble in car production as well. Would it make a difference if it actually was a British company behind this?
For strategic industries like steel, I actually do think the government should have a strategic public ownership stake. But we're our own worst enemy. Because the truth is, net zero has driven all of this. It's driven high electricity prices, it's driven the carbon taxes, and it's driven the desire to get rid of these blast furnaces. No other nations are doing this. I mean, the majority of new steel-making capacity around the world is blast furnaces. People are laughing at our stupidity, and that's just absurd.
Yeah, well, the government have said that they're committed to £2.5 billion of investment to rebuild the UK steel industry and to support communities now and for generations to come. I suppose the question really should be, how can we make cheap electricity? Why isn't that a priority? Why are we paying 50% more for electricity in this country than in France? Then we could have green steel, and that could be something to be...
Very simple. We've got expensive electricity because of our obsession with net zero. And there's a direct link between the increase in our renewable generating capacity and the increase in our electricity prices. And for the government obsessed with wind turbines, not a single bit of British steel is used in manufacturing all of these wind turbines.
Wrong, isn't it?
It's completely ludicrous.
It's wrong. But does that mean to say that you're ignoring net zero or that you're ignoring climate change?
I'm not ignoring anything. Climate change is real. It's been real for millions of years. It'll be real for the next million years. It'll be much cheaper to adapt to it. And let me just remind you, China, India, Vietnam, they're building blast furnaces as though they're going out of fashion so that they can have cheap, strong steel. Blast furnaces make the strongest steel. Electric arc furnaces, new technology, it's nearly as strong, but it's not quite as good.
The thing that gets me is we're responsible for 1% of the pollution here. And yet we're doing all these things, all these cuts are instigated. And these countries that are responsible for so much of the producing and the carbon manifestation, where's the fairness in that? Why
There's no fairness at all. It is naive, it is foolish, and it's negligent, and it's disgraceful for the communities down at Port Talbot, where I've been, I wasn't allowed to talk to 1,000 steelworkers by the unions. They thought that, you know, I might talk about net zero, and what a shocking thing that would be. You know, that's no way to represent your workers. So I just think we are being really foolish in this country, and we are destroying our industrial base, exposing ourselves, making ourselves vulnerable to imports. And it's all very well when the sun shines. But do you remember in 2020, we nearly ran out of paracetamol because it was all made in India? Some of this stuff's quite important. I'd quite like it made here, please.